The following podcast is a Dear Media production.
Sex dungeons in the garage, chicken coops, portable toilets, bondage, panic attacks, straitjackets, more padlocks than you could possibly imagine, sensory deprivation boxes, claustrophobia. Today's episode is wild. I'm going to let the episode with our audience caller speak for itself, so I will let us dive right in, but I want to call out before you hear this episode that from my standpoint as the interviewer, this conversation took a turn somewhere midway through, and I think you'll probably hear it in my voice, because the truth is the conversation went from being kind of this lighthearted secret that our audience caller was carrying, telling me about her husband's sexual quirks and kinks, but as you'll hear in the unraveling of this story, I think it does take a little bit of a dark turn. And I did, for better or for worse, put on the cap of being Emily's close friend or like being a support figure for her, even though she wasn't asking for advice or, I'm obviously not a licensed trained therapist in any way. I couldn't help but offer some tidbits that I felt would be helpful for her because I do find the situation to be somewhat alarming. And I think you'll know what I'm talking about when we get there. I truly want to thank this audience caller for coming on and opening up so honestly about this incredibly taboo topic. We ended up talking for another 30 minutes or so after the recording was done. She told me more stories and I'm looking forward to hearing back from her and getting an update. I'm going to let this conversation take its course with you. If you like this episode, please leave a comment. I think Emily calls out in the end. She wants to hear from people. So if you want to connect with Emily directly, feel free to reach out to our team at therealstuffpod@gmail.com. We will send it over to Emily, and if she wants to connect, we'll loop you guys together. Otherwise, if you're enjoying the show, if you find these taboo topics that are so challenging to talk about are interesting to hear, please consider leaving the show a 5-star rating and review on Apple or on Spotify. If you're watching on YouTube, drop a comment down below. Give it a thumbs up. Let's get into today's episode with our audience caller, Emily. Hello, I'm going to do my best to not say your real name because we're going to be making up a fake name for you for this episode, and we need a fake name for your husband as well. So I'm going to select your husband's name, and then you could choose a secret name for yourself based on that. How does that sound?
Sounds perfect.
Okay, I'm going to go with Brian just because that is the name of my lovely podcast technician sitting in the room with me, and I would like to make him uncomfortable during this conversation. So husband is Brian. Who are you?
I'm going to be Emily.
Ooh, Emily. Okay.
Yes.
Emily, a grand welcome to the Real Stuff podcast.
Thank you so much.
As I just learned before we hit record, you have never told anyone this in your entire life.
Never. Other than my husband, obviously.
Right. Other than Brian, only Emily and Brian know what's going on here, but not a single person now, aside from Lucie, Fink, and our team, knows about this.
Correct. It's a bit weighty to say that out loud, but it's true.
And as you said before, this is already starting to feel a little cathartic. So I'm very happy to hear that.
Yes. I've got the first day of school jitters for sure, but I'm very excited.
Okay, well, we're gonna go as deep as we possibly can in this interview. Before we even cut to the chase and tell people about the situation, I would just love to hear why you wrote in to be on the show and why you want to talk about this. Is it a personal, I need to get this off my chest, or is it I want someone to feel less alone, or something entirely different?
It's kind of all of that. I feel like everybody has a therapist now, which is lovely, but I can't even tell my therapist these things for a couple of reasons. One, Brian goes to a therapist in the same practice, and our therapists chat about overlapping issues, and he's sworn me to secrecy. But in addition to that, I'm not into just about anything my husband is. So it is quite isolating. But at the same time, if there can be other women or even other couples that we could collaborate with, or if Brian doesn't want to collaborate with other couples, maybe it's just me, I maybe could feel a little bit less alone or be more of a supportive spouse throughout all of our sexual endeavors.
Okay, so undoubtedly people are on the edge of their seats right now wondering, who is Brian? What does Brian do? What are we talking about here? So why don't you just break it down in, obviously you've never told it to anyone else, so I'm not going to say tell it like you would tell to a friend, but tell it like you would tell if I was a therapist from another practice who had no connection to Brian.
Yeah, so Brian loves isolation and bondage sexual experiences. So what I mean by that is I'm going to give you the down and dirty, but he bought a chicken coop, which sounds crazy, but it's the outer cage of a chicken coop that can be locked. He likes to be locked in there, be put on a cot, restrained down. He built himself a wooden sensory deprivation box that's like padded. It's completely quiet. And some things that Brian has told me are that he is so stressed at work and with life and having 2 kids and just the responsibilities of everything that this is the way that he can kind of release some of that tension in a way that is completely up to me. So I've never called myself a dominatrix, and I feel very weird saying that, but essentially I think that's how he views me.
So I want to hear more about what is actually happening during these escapades, but I think we should go back to when you first met and when you first started being sexual together. How was this revealed to you, and what was going on in your mind?
Yeah, great question. I actually have a lot of negatives surrounding how this started. Brian and I met, at this point, probably 15 years ago in college. And we had been seeing other people in between. We were long distance. And we both decided that when he would fly down to come see me, we were going to rip the Band-Aid off. Night 1, have sex, get it over with. The tension has been broken. So that was our most probably traditional sexual experience to date. And then he revealed to me that a former partner opened up his eyes to the whole bondage experience. And he calls it bondage. So I'm going to refer to it as bondage. That's what we call it. Or he'll say he wants to be locked up. So those are like the terms that we use. We don't necessarily call it anything else. So he told me that he likes bondage, meaning handcuffs. He'll buy the full snowsuits like you imagine for a toddler, but they're adult size. Like you would go camping in the mountains and wear these like very intense warm snowsuits.
Wait, why is he wearing a snowsuit?
Okay, so I don't know. My thought is, to this day, I've asked him, he's like, I don't know, I just like it. But he has these contraptions that he's gotten from the hardware store. He has this little chain that goes around the top where he'll connect a tiny lock, like a diary lock, really, really small, around the zipper and around the chain to kind of keep the zipper up. And then he'll lock the crotch zipper as well, because on these suits, there are multiple zippers. And he likes, I think, the tease of it, like the delayed gratification of, I can't touch myself. I can't relieve myself. It's completely up to Emily. Like I am completely in control. So that's my suspicion why he likes it, because he'll put these snowsuits on in the summertime. And it makes zero sense to me because it's sweltering. So, I lost my train of thought.
You were telling me how he said that a previous partner turned him on to this.
Yes, which was, instantly brought up some feelings of jealousy for me, because I thought, well, why can't I be good enough by myself? Why do you need all of these bells and whistles? Can't I be enough? And I've worked through that. I've had to work through it on my own, completely isolated, because I can't really bring it up to Brian. He gets defensive, but worked through some of that. And we would, during these long distance meetups or visits that we would have with each other, he would basically be asked to be locked in a closet probably 50 to 75% of the weekend. And I had this small little closet that was, for me, claustrophobic. But for him, all I can do is focus on my breathing and wait for Emily to come back and let me out and hopefully tease me sexually and kind of go from there. So after there was a moment that kind of made things turn for me. During one of our isolation bondage adventures, he had a panic attack. Full blown, just ripped out of all of his chains. I don't know how he did it because it was metal. Ripped out all of it. And I had been running an errand and I came back and I, for the longest time, was very against all of this. And we can kind of go into that in more detail later. But that's where all of the negativity surrounded our initial endeavors into this bondage experience. Yeah, that was hard. That was really hard for me.
So before that incident, and I would like to hear more about what happened when you returned from your errands, but before that, did you have no negativity around it? You just kind of thought this is his kink?
Kind of. I wouldn't say there was no negativity. I put a lot of pressure on myself to make it the best every time and to always exceed his expectations. But I wouldn't say it was negative in the same way that I felt like I was harming him. because the panic attack certainly brought up feelings of, am I hurting this person? It's just, that was very scary for me and honestly quite traumatic because I came back and Brian's on the floor sweating. He had quite literally ripped like metal apart so that he could get out of the snowsuit contraption that he likes with the chain around his neck. Like I physically don't know how he did it, but I guess when you're in that state of panic, of course, that brings up a lot of negativity. And now it's surrounding sex because that's what gets him the sexual satisfaction that he wants.
So what was the conversation between the two of you like when you saw him post panic attack?
Yeah. So I immediately was like, nope, never doing this again. Like, this is absolutely off the table. We're not doing this. He respected that, I think, and took several months, if not close to a year, for us to work through, hey, this is part of it. We have to navigate. If I'm going to have a panic attack, we both need to recognize where his threshold is, no matter what Brian says. So, like, he might tell me, I want to have like a gag hood on, and I want you to put me in a straitjacket over top of a snowsuit and my ankles are chained together and I'm like completely just at your mercy. And I have to be in control of like, nope, that's going to lead to a panic attack. He does not have almost like a toddler. He doesn't have that like, I don't even know the right word, like that level of understanding.
Like the prefrontal cortex telling him like logic.
Yes. Like he doesn't realize where his threshold is. And I've learned through our different situations that we set up, because I like novelty, so I like to make it new every time, what he can handle. So for example, if he says exactly what I just told you, I want the hood on with my gag, I want, my straitjacket on, I want my ankles chained, I have to quite literally tell him, you do that, I walk away, you're gonna have a panic attack and you're probably going to hurt yourself trying to get out of it. How can we adapt this so it's giving you what you want without harming yourself? Sometimes it's on me. Sometimes Brian is able to logic through it. If he's not, I think the level of stress depends on how well he can logic through things. It's honestly shocking to me because he's quite successful at his job. He's an incredibly smart individual. And it's like logic has gone out the window whenever he's really aroused.
I have to go back to, and I don't know how much you maybe know about his childhood or his past, even before this ex-girlfriend of his. But I have to believe, maybe this is not true, and I don't want to make a sweeping statement about everyone that has some obscure kink. But for whatever reason, I'm led to believe that when someone has some sort of an outlandish fantasy or something that's just a little bit peculiar, it does make you wonder about childhood. I don't know if the word would be trauma or even just experiences or something formative in those early years that would lead a person to be turned on by these types of situations. So do you know anything regarding that?
Yes. And this is part of like the healing process for me therapeutically on my own. Because like I said, you're the first person besides him that knows about this. He absolutely had a traumatic childhood. He had a terrible childhood, quite physically abusive, mentally abusive, just awful. Like, and one example is his mom used to burn him with cigarettes, like awful stuff, terrible. And his mom would take his ADHD medication to get high. She was not a great person. Neither was his dad. They didn't know how to be parents. They were really not great people, which is hard for me to say, but because they raised him and quite frankly, and he and I have talked about this, neither of us really think that either his mom or dad should have had kids just based on their lifestyles and how they raised him and his siblings. But the frustrating part about that is had they not had Brian, I wouldn't have Brian. And I love him. Like he's my guy. So I'm very conflicted about it, but it's absolutely in my mind and the way I've healed and processed this, it's related to his childhood 100%.
And do you know if there was any sexual abuse and or any instances of things like isolation or being in a cage, things like that?
God, I'd like to hope not. But I mean, it wouldn't be surprising to me. That feels really awful to say, but it really wouldn't. So this potentially could be related. He had a very positive relationship with his dad's sister, and she ended up adopting him when he was a teenager. He would go to her house for reprieve. And so the family kind of understood his birth parents were not of sound mind. So he would go to his aunt's house, have that weekend of just like relaxation and reprieve, which is, in my mind, maybe where he's getting this isolation from, or the bondage is like, in a sense, broken when he's in his aunt, or when he was in his aunt's care. And then he goes back to this feeling of like terrible bondage emotionally and physically, the abuse at his home. So in my mind, that was kind of like his relief. That's how I've processed it and how I understand it, but I can't really ask him about it, unfortunately.
Lately, I've been really intentional about finding small, proactive ways to support our family's wellness, especially with young kids and all the germs they bring home. And recently, we started adding Wetherspoon Manuka honey into our daily routine. And let me tell you, this is not just regular honey. Wetherspoon Manuka honey is sourced only from New Zealand and contains naturally occurring MGO, which is known for its antibacterial, prebiotic, immunity, and overall wellness benefits. It's something that I genuinely feel good about using every day. What I love most is how easy it is to work this into our routine. I add it into my tea in the morning with a little spoonful. We have the drizzle bottle, so we drizzle it in smoothies for the kids on top of toast or oatmeal. Every single morning, Milo just gets a spoonful of it and takes it with a spoon like a little treat. My kids love the Wetherspoon Manuka honey on their yogurt in the morning. It feels like a win when I give it to them because I know that it's more than just something sweet, but it's supporting their wellness too. It also has this thick, creamy texture. It's not like regular honey, and a really delicious flavor that you just do not get from regular honey. I always keep that squeeze bottle on hand. Michael and I also use their MGO 850 as part of our own daily wellness routines. And Wetherspoon is the #1 selling Manuka honey in the US and one of the only USDA organic Manuka honeys on the market. It's always non-GMO, free of antibiotics and glyphosate, which really matters because a lot of Manuka honeys have a lot of glyphosate. And these are things I like to think about when we're choosing which products and foods to use in our home every single day. If you want to try it for yourself, get your own taste of New Zealand sunshine by visiting wetherspoon.com and using the code all caps REAL20 at checkout for 20% off your order. That's wetherspoon.com and use code REAL20 for 20% off your order of Wetherspoon Manuka honey. I want to share something that I've genuinely been loving lately. It's a piece that I've been wearing almost every week when I go to play tennis. I am very intentional about the pieces that I add to my wardrobe, especially ones that feel comfortable but are still elevated. And my Rowback mock neck has quickly become one of those staples for me. I seriously grab it whenever I'm going out to do anything somewhat athletic. They just restocked it, which I'm very excited about because the last time it dropped, it sold out in under a week. If you're interested, now is your chance. It comes in 2 colorways. It has really beautiful embroidery details. I have the ivory one with the small little American flag on it, which I love. It also comes in a classic navy, which feels timeless and very easy to style. And while we're talking about Rowback, they just launched biker short sets for the first time, and they are genuinely buttery soft. I tried them on as soon as they arrived, and they're very flattering and clearly so thoughtfully designed. They come with a matching bra. They're available in several colorways, which makes them easy to mix and match and to put into your everyday routine. I love wearing the biker short set as a first layer under the oversized mock neck. It makes getting dressed in the morning so easy while still looking very put together. These are the kinds of pieces that I continue to reach for in my closet, and I know you will too. So use the code all caps real stuff on rowback.com for a generous 20% off your first order through the end of this week. That's spelled RHOBACK.com. And I guess the silver lining of the situation is that it does seem that despite it maybe stemming from a traumatic past in some way, shape, or form, the two of you are now 2 consenting adults, happily married with your 2 kids. And it seems that even if you're doing things that are different from what a standard monogamous heterosexual couple might be doing in the bedroom, or as we'll get to, in the garage, it's still by choice. And at least from the way you've spoken about it thus far in the conversation, I heard you use the word escapade, adventure. And I also heard you talk about wanting to make it enjoyable for him and make it good for him. So I would love to hear from your standpoint. Is that how you feel about it now, where when you go into these quote escapades, you are also getting pleasure out of the experience? Or would this not be your mode of choice?
Not my mode of choice for sure. I will say this. I am very much like a romantic. I want to be wooed. He knows this. That being said, I'm in a stage right now, like as I don't know if we've mentioned this live, but my kids are in school and a toddler. So like life is crazy. And I think of myself as a mom full time. So thinking of myself as a sexual partner is quite literally at the back of my mind. Sometimes it's an afterthought. So I don't need as much sexual pleasure or sexual release as Brian does. However, sometimes it is a little bit enjoyable for me to go outside of this comfort zone and participate. Meaning, like, we have sex on the cot, we have sex in his box. It might be once every month or two. It's not super frequent, but it's not completely unenjoyable for me. I would say, though, if he wants sexual release and I also do, and it's on my terms, he knows, like, we're going to start in our bed where it's comfy and warm. Then we'll transition to the garage and he can get all that he wants to get done. And I'm saying all that he wants because sometimes it's not purely just giving him a hand job, giving him a blow job, or having sex. Sometimes it's like he wants to be chained up for hours at a time. So he knows, like, first I'm going to pleasure Emily, then Brian gets what he wants.
Okay, how is this logistically fitting into life with kids? Are the children walking into the garage and finding daddy chained in the crate?
No, God,
like,
no.
how is this working every day?
Yeah, so that's a really great question. And actually, it's getting harder and harder as they're older. When they were little potted plants who would sleep all day, it was great. We could just bring the baby
He was in the
monitor
garage
license
for months.
Truly. So, yeah, great question because it's super tricky.
Give me like a standard week, because I think I remembered from your application that he's interested in something happening sexually. You said maybe 4 to 6 times in a week.
That's true. Yes, that's true.
So how's this working?
Here is a great example because this is what literally any week looks like. So we both work daytime hours. I might get home. We alternate putting the kids to bed. If he's super horny, he's going to go, it's my night because I'm faster. Puts the kids down. Let's say around, gosh, I don't know, 7 o'clock. Our kids go to bed very early, like full transparency. So like around 7 o'clock, I might take him out to the garage. He would have me do some sort of initial setup. So a new favorite of mine, because it's very easy to do with gloves on since it's freezing, is these leather straps that have a little metal piece that sticks out, kind of like a belt, if you can kind of imagine that. Like there's slots, and then the belt kind of goes over top of them. Then there's a second belt that goes through them, which can be tied to a cot, which can be tied to his waist. They're kind of, you can kind of do whatever you want. So we might start out chaining his hands to his waist, locking the locks on the zippers of his suit at the crotch, and then at the neck with the little chain necklace contraption. I might leave him out there for 45 minutes to an hour and a half, like just approximately. Then I would come outside.
And he's in his snowsuit, correct?
Correct. Sometimes two.
Okay, because it's cold
Yes.
in the garage
Yes.
at night.
Sometimes two snowsuits on top of each other.
Okay, so hypothermia is not a concern.
No. The man quite literally has stock in North Face. You know, his hands are around his waist, about an hour, we'll say an hour and a half for argument's sake. So at this point, it's about 8:30. I might go out there, change positions. So might take the belt off of his hands, put on.
Wait, I gotta pause
Sure.
you. Logistically, or more on a more granular level, as you tie him up and then as you leave him, obviously you can't know everything that's happening in his body, but is the assumption that as you're taking control and tightening the belt and, you know, he has no control over his body anymore, that he is getting aroused?
Yes. He's usually already aroused while I'm tying him up, and he just maintains arousal.
From your standpoint, as you're doing this tying and then as you leave him for 45 minutes and come back, I mean, I envision you leaving for 45 minutes, going washing the dishes with the podcast.
Literally.
And then you come back. Yes. And I'm trying to understand if you return back to him in this like sexual maven energy. Or if you just return back like I just washed the dishes.
It's a little bit of both. So this is
Okay.
where 90% of our couple arguments come from, truly. Because I'll come back and he's like, you have no interest in this. I'm like, yeah, because I just washed the dishes. The dog just threw up on the carpet and I cleaned it up. Like, what do you want me to do? Become a vixen? No. Like, I'm also a mom. Your kid just shit himself. Like, what do you want me to do here? So yes, sometimes I do come back and he calls it being into it. He's like, you're not into this. Yep, you're right. I'm not. Your children are really running amok. But then sometimes, and this is why we usually do it in the evenings, they're asleep. I'm doing things for me at the same time that he's outside. So last night I did yoga. I did 45-minute video for the first time in a very long time. And I loved it. It was great. It felt very zen. I went back outside and I went, I got what I wanted. I'm going to give you what you want. Great. Love it. But you're right. I mean, if I'm doing the dishes, I'm not exactly being a vixen when I go back outside. I mean, it is both. Sometimes it's been a day for me too, and I'm not into it. And he knows, and we navigate that through things that he has, accessories that he has. So he has ski goggles that he duct taped to make them into like an eye mask. They're super comfortable because of the padding. He's got the earmuffs that he wears for lawn mowing because they're noise canceling. He's got a ball gag. He's got a full head mask ball gag. He's got a gas mask, like the really creepy looking ones. I hate it. That is my least favorite, but he loves it. I literally told him the other day because I was actually kind of into it. I said, you're going to have to take that off because it's not doing it for me. And he's like, okay, you know. But so he has that. He's probably got dozens of handcuffs, ankle cuffs, wrist cuffs, ones that go together. We have a whole key ring of locks.
So you called this room in your application the sex dungeon, but more practically, it's the family garage where, I don't know, I assume there are maybe cars parked or kids' scooters or things like that.
Yeah.
How?
I should elaborate. Yeah. Can I elaborate a little bit? Okay.
Please.
So we live in a pretty rural area, just kind of like on the outskirts of the town that we live in. And we actually have a 2-story garage.
Okay.
So the first floor, all your typical garage things. Second story, it's quite literally just an empty room. Plywood walls, just the framing. I kind of want to send you a picture so you can understand it because I feel like I can't do it justice. Okay.
If you send us a picture that is somewhat inconspicuous as to your house, we can maybe share what it looks like.
Perfect. I will do that. I'll try to be creative about it. Because you wouldn't know from the outside at all. So there's a giant chicken coop inside. It's a metal enclosure, no roof. The door locks. It can lock with a padlock from both the inside and the outside. It's probably, if I had to guess, maybe like 8 feet by 20 feet. So it's pretty big. And then a plywood box that he created with insulation. There's like foam padding, so it's completely noise proof. It has 3 locks with latches, and the locks are they're pretty sizable. So like you'd need a bolt cutter to get out of it. And then he also told me, which I thought was really funny, if I'm ever not in the mood, he put an internal lock on it so that he could lock himself in there, which I think is a little silly because he quite literally tells me every time that he cannot do this by himself and he needs me. So anyways, so there's that. So now that you kind of have the setup of our area, when we go to change positions after like the 45 minutes, hour and a half, we might be going from the box to inside the chicken coop. He has a cot with handcuffs, a pillow, a sleeping bag, ratchet straps that he can kind of tighten inside the sleeping bag, and then ankle cuffs. So we might go from like one to the other.
So are you telling me this room above your garage, let's just say that by accident, the police wandered up there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Would they say you are a serial killer?
I mean, okay, I'm not gonna it's alarming. Like, I've really worried about our kids going up there and our neighbors going up there, but we live in a rural enough area that I don't think it would happen. I don't feel comfortable lying to my kids, but my husband's like, just tell them there's bugs up there and snakes up there. Because there have been snake skins found up there, which also freaks me out because what if it bites him and he's up there and I'm nowhere to be found? It's crossed my mind. I know he has a lock to the upper garage. Yeah, I'll be very honest with you. It looks like a torture chamber.
Are you ever nervous personally that this is going to roll reverse on you, or all of a sudden he's going to be interested in you being the one locked up?
Yeah, we've actually talked about this. So back before we lived at the house we live in now, we've lived in a lot of places. We've had to kind of figure it out. This is the first place where we have a permanent location for his things. But in previous houses, he's asked, like, can I tie you up? And I'm going to be very honest. I hate it. I hate feeling out of control. He tried the straitjacket on me. I hated it. He tried, I think, cuffing me to the cot. And I immediately, like, we have a safe word. It's pickle, because nothing sounds like pickle. And I immediately, it was like, pickle, get me out of here. I don't like this. I don't want to feel restrained. Like, done. And he's very respectful of that. Like, he's not gonna try anything. There has been like a time or two when I'm like, maybe you can hold my wrists down just with your hands for a little bit of that feeling. But even that, I don't love it. So no, to answer your question, no, I'm not really worried about a role reversal.
I don't blame you with the no desire for that. I can't even get an MRI without taking medication. So
Yes.
do not put me in a straitjacket, Michael, if you're listening.
Yeah.
To this point, though, about the being in the house, going and doing your own thing, the dishes, a yoga practice. And I hate to plant a thought in your head that maybe wasn't there before, but I would like to see how this lands with you. I can't imagine it's the end of the night. We put our kids to bed and I'm now cleaning up the mess of the house. Even if my husband was in the garage doing a passion project, like sawing some wood or making something for the house, I would still be like, could you not do that right now and fucking help me clean up so we could get to bed and take care of our house? And like, especially given that he's in the garage getting off for 45 minutes.
Literally.
Is there not a part of you that is like, sir, do you mind turning your sexual drive off and playing your role in the house?
Yep. So this is why 90% of our fights are about our sexual lives, because it is so aggravating to me. But I've kind of found workarounds because, like, I mean, we've been together, oh gosh, it probably has been 15 years ago now, between 10 and 15 years. So it's been a while. And I've told him, like, look, I am not the only parent. You have responsibilities. What am I, just the housemaid as well as the sexual vixen? Like, I can't do it all. And then I'm the preferred parent, which most moms are. So I quite literally feel like I never get a break because my husband needs me sexually, my kids need me emotionally and just physically. And then I'm a full-time parent, meaning like I work full-time and then I come home and I'm the primary parent. It sucks. Like it's absolutely draining. And I've started to put in systems to help. So I saw something recently where it was like the division of labor in the household. Write it down so you can see that your husband's not just like a slack off doing nothing. And it helped. It helped a lot because even though I do a lot of the primary house tasks, he has to do the snow removal at 5 a.m. because I've got to be out the door by 6:45. So like, yeah, I'm not doing that. I'm not touching that with a 10-foot pole. He does do a lot. If I feel not in the mood or if I feel overwhelmed, I say no. He usually asks, hey, what can I do to help? We navigate that. And then I will give him the green light, like, hey, I feel much calmer, like I'm much more regulated. I feel ready. Would you still like to go outside? 9 times out of 10, he says yes, unless he has a big work meeting in the morning. So we just kind of shift it back and it's a shorter session than maybe our typical weeknight, we'll say, adventure.
So much of wellness culture these days is about extremes. People are either cutting everything out, they're chasing quick fixes, or they're buying a million topical products and hoping one of them is magically going to change everything. And the older I get, the more I realize that what actually makes the biggest difference for me is consistent internal support. And that's why I keep coming back to Peak. It's a brand that I've known and loved for years, and their Radiant Skin Duo has become one of my favorite daily rituals. The Radiant Skin Duo pairs two things that your skin desperately needs: antioxidants and deep hydration. So the first part is the Sun Goddess matcha, which I already drink almost every morning. This is ceremonial grade matcha grown in volcanic soil, and it's not just about energy, it's like a reset button for your skin. It helps calm inflammation, supports detoxification from within, and honestly just makes my skin look brighter and more even. And the second part is BT Fountain, which is luxury hydration. It's not a sports electrolyte drink. This is the rebuild step of the routine. It supports deep cellular hydration with things like hyaluronic acid, ceramides, and minerals. If you ever feel dull, dry, or like your makeup is starting to look textured and cakey halfway through the day, this is a product to help with that. Plus, it tastes amazing, kind of like a yuzu raspberry vibe. And what makes the Radiant Skin Duo so powerful is how the two work in tandem. So the matcha helps make your skin calm and clear, and the hydration replenishes and rebuilds. Together, I've noticed less puffiness, better texture, and then that plump, dewy, lit from within glow, the kind that people start asking what you've been doing differently. This isn't about chasing perfection or starting any drastic routines. It's an intentional, small daily ritual that actually fits into real life, and that's why it works. If you want to redefine your standard of wellness and support your skin from the inside out, you can get 20% off when you go to peaklife.com/realstuff. That's PIQUE life.com/realstuff to start your intentional wellness journey today. Winter hibernation will soon be over, and before we know it, we will all be ready for spring cleaning. But when it comes to the scent of your laundry, it doesn't have to smell like the same thing that you use to disinfect your bathroom. Enter Laundry Sauce, the premium scented laundry pods that don't just clean your clothes, but elevate them. Say goodbye to that stale, overused detergent scent and hello to luxurious, fine fragrance freshness that lasts. Imagine stepping outside on the perfect spring morning with your clothes smelling like Australian sandalwood, Italian bergamot, or Egyptian rose. Laundry Sauce isn't just about smelling incredible, it is engineered for performance. These highly concentrated pods are packed with the cleaning power of bioenzymes that obliterate stains from muddy hikes, backyard barbecues, and that inevitable iced coffee spill that happens to me every day. And because spring is all about fresh starts, they revive fabrics, making your favorite pieces look and feel brand new. For a limited time only, our listeners get 20% off your entire order when you use the code REALSTUFF, one word, all caps, at laundrysauce.com. That's 20% off your order at laundrysauce.com with promo code REALSTUFF. After you purchase, they will ask you where you heard about them, so please support our show and tell them we sent you. It is time to make laundry day the best day of the week. The whole concept of you not having ever told anyone, including a mental health professional, who is someone that, by the way, especially a sex therapist, might be able to normalize it for you in a way that I don't know if your brain feels that it's normal, or maybe you've heard or read about other people doing it, but I feel the experience of the two of you together seeing a unbiased third party who is totally unconnected to your community or anyone you know, and, a HIPAA authorized professional, that it could actually be positive. But it sounds like there's a lot of trauma for your husband around talking about it, and that there's been a lot of arguing between the two of you when it comes to him swearing you to secrecy, so to speak. How come you haven't considered a therapist that's maybe outside of the practice where he goes? Because, you could see a therapist on a platform like BetterHelp or anywhere on the internet. You can even be anonymous to the therapist. I would just love to hear how it feels, this whole sworn to secrecy element, and what you kind of wish could happen as far as being openly able to talk about it.
Absolutely. And I mean, to answer one of the questions that you kind of posed within there, I've brought up a sex therapist multiple times. And it's not like I'm not embarrassed by this at all. And honestly, if he wasn't embarrassed, I would not be anonymous today. But he holds a lot of embarrassment around this. And for one example, his best friend, since they were the age that he was adopted, and we're almost 40, like we're in our mid 30s, they've been best friends their whole lives. He will not tell him at all. He's like, don't bring it up. Don't ever mention this. I don't want him to know. And he knows his best friend's kinks. So to me, like that's rooted in trauma. And I think he kind of reverts back to that childlike fear of abandonment and embarrassment. So I've actually thought a lot about going to a sex therapist, even on my own. But when I bring it up, it's not received positively because of the embarrassment, I suspect. So that being said, I've had to resort to internet help, which isn't super helpful. I haven't switched therapists now because I personally prefer to go to a therapist in person. I feel like it's just more engaging for me, but I have considered switching to like a BetterHelp or truly anybody else. Like I'll drive an hour to go see you if you're not in my close-knit community, or even if you might know a name I might mention. But it's been a lot of resistance on his part, I suspect, because he doesn't want to be outed, because he does hold quite a prominent role within our generally local community. I'll say he holds a government job as well as a personal private job. And I think he's just worried about being outed, even though a therapist would have to keep this confidential based on privacy law, like you mentioned, HIPAA. But within this idea that we're not always on the same page sexually, or there's some like negativity for me surrounding what I need versus what he needs versus what is quote unquote acceptable for a married couple. We've done a lot of, I'll say, therapeutic conversation between the two of us. And I wouldn't say we're getting to the point as quickly as I would like to. However, I do see the progress. Like one specific example is with, I'm inside momming away and he's like, can you come lock me outside? And I'm like, fuck no, I'm sorry. Your child is screaming. Your other child is jumping off of the couch. The dog threw up on the carpet. Like, bad time. No.
So to be clear, he is occasionally asking you to engage in these activities while the kids are awake. It's not just after bedtime.
No, usually he tries to make sure they're watching a movie or they're occupied, but that doesn't mean anything because neither of my kids will go do something on their own. It's like, Mom, can you watch the movie with us? Mom, can you come sit next to me? So yeah, he does ask, but I will say usually that's on the weekends because I mean, like I said, we both work daytime hours.
And I must know, is he aware that you're on this podcast, even anonymously?
No, he doesn't know.
Because you haven't told any close friends this or any mental health professional, and I'm neither of those two things, but feel that I could step into the role of a friend in the situation. My take on this, and I know you didn't ask, so I don't want to be dropping my bombs on you when you didn't ask. But my take about this whole thing is that the sexual kinks are one thing, and whatever he wants, whatever turns him on, as long as you're comfortable with it, the two of you are consenting adults, great. Have your fun, have your chicken coop. Have your belts, have your bondage. I think everyone's turned on by different things based on where it comes from or doesn't come from your past childhood is your own background, but it's led you to where you are today as adults where both people are safe, you have a safe word, and it is what it is. And I think there's no sex therapist or no one should try to tell you two how to have sex or what to do. As an external third party, some of the areas that I don't want to say are like red flags for me, but just some of the areas that I'm sure are somewhat of red flags for you or that set up internal triggers for you are inability to really have deep conversations about it between the two of you because of him feeling like, I don't want to go there. And it being not a thing that the two of you can sit and talk to any therapist in the world, even virtually, and really dissect and open up, which could even make the experience more enjoyable and more pleasurable and just less questionable in a way. So there's that. But then I also think there's the sheer amount of, I don't know if it's the amount of time or just the sheer percentage of your waking hours together as mom and dad or of your life as a couple that is being taken up by something like this, which I think in my head, it begs the question of, is it past just a kink in the bedroom? And is there a slight, I don't know if it's like a sexual addiction or is there a slight something else that he's dealing with that maybe he won't really let you even talk about? And then also just the third thing for me is you being an individual who has your own needs and has your own, especially as a mom and someone who's you want to work through mentally. I could see you sitting here with me today feeling so relieved to talk about it and you being someone who would probably thrive to open up to someone about it, even in a medical sense, and him sort of banning you from getting your own support in the situation, which feels like at a certain point you can not tell anyone if you don't want to, but this is I'm an individual too, and I need my own processing of this, and I need to have someone to talk to. And if it's not going to be you, which I don't think it even should be you, then you need to like quote unquote release me and let me have someone. And I don't know. Those are all of my thoughts. So I wonder how you feel about all of those.
I mean, I don't disagree with you on any of them. I feel the same. And frankly, like I didn't feel the need to ask permission to be on today. I did want to make sure that I was anonymous for respect, purely for respect, because I do. I respect my husband. If we're not in that place where we want to open up yet, that's fine. And I do feel like we're in a much better spot now with opening up to each other than we were 5 and even 10 years ago, but we're not where I would like to be. And as you mentioned, I would love to make this positive, if not every time, which not every time has to be a banger. Like we don't have to have the best time every time, but if we can have more positives than negatives, that would be great. Or as you mentioned, it takes up a shit ton of time. Like I didn't even get to the weekends. Those were like weeknight examples. On the weekend, sometimes he'll ask to be locked up for days. Like I kid you not. So he'll say, I took Monday off. Can we do a long lockup? Meaning like Friday night to Monday night.
At this point, it's just like, I need a co-parent in the house.
Correct. And I have made the comment to him like, okay, so I'm a married single mom. Like that's not really fair because yes, you feel like you don't have a hobby, but to me, that's not a hobby. That's a problem. Like you are just dissociating from your life at this point. And granted, that's not often. I would say he asks for a long lockup. Like he asked for one for Valentine's Day and he asked for one, I think, for his birthday. So it's not all the time, but he'll ask to be locked up for a whole day often. And this is where the waters get muddy. So sometimes he'll ask me to do that, but it's his own like dirty talk to get him to come faster. Like it's not that he wants to be locked up for 24 hours, but he'll say it. And in the moment, we're kind of role playing, but I'm not even aware that we're role playing. And he's like, no, 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 I want to come. I'm like, oh, okay. I like mentally prepped to be a single parent all weekend. And you're telling me now this was just dirty talk. That kind of wrecks my whole weekend plans. Like I was going to take the kids to a movie and like do things so that they're not asking where you are every 5 minutes. Because my kids do ask where he is, which is really uncomfortable when his car is sitting in the driveway. They're like, where's Dad?
What do you say?
Yeah. So I put it on him. I'm like, you know what? He'll tell us when he gets back. And then he has to answer. I have asked him, like, can you put his car's a little too big for the garage, but like, can you park it somewhere else? Like, can we, I don't know, hide my car and say you took my car? Like, can we be smart about this? And oftentimes he'll just tell them, like, I was doing a project. I just had to run an errand really quick. And if they're watching a movie, they wouldn't know. But yeah, it does impede upon our weekend. For sure. I would say probably 75% of the time. Like when he has a couple of good sessions or whatever, like he still needs frequency, but he'll back off a little bit if it kind of goes according to his conceived plan.
I mean, Emily, it sounds really hard.
Oh yeah, it's fucking hard. It's like a full-time job in addition to being a mom and a full-time employee.
I don't know what a therapist would encourage you to do in this case, but probably where my brain goes is not the smartest move. But would you ever consider some sort of a ultimatum of like, we need to have this conversation or we have to put sex on hold because I can't continue like this until we are working with someone?
Yeah, I've actually done that. I have done that in the past. And I have said like, I'm not going to, the only word coming to mind is put out, but that's like terrible because he doesn't need that. But I was like, we're not having sex until we can figure this out. And basically it ended in him just asking less often. And then he kind of let me take the reins, so to speak. But he likes when I make the decision. So it really didn't solve any problems. And not saying like you've inspired me to do this, but like I think hearing it from somebody who's not myself helps to go like, you know what? Yeah, I should stick up for myself and be like, look, I'm going to go to a sex therapist. Feel free to come. Feel free to not come. I will choose somebody that you don't know, that I don't know, that might not even be local. Like we might do it virtually. I need help because not that like I don't feel like I'm in a point of crisis. Like I feel like we've worked out a nice routine. And I do want to just like put this out there. I love alone time. I feel like as a mom, you don't get alone time. So for him to ask me to lock him outside for an hour, sometimes it feels like a vacation because he...
That's it. I'm locking Michael out tonight.
He's like my third toddler. And I sometimes am just like, yes, you know what? Yes, please go outside.
I mean, I would encourage you to, I don't know if the word is stick up for yourself or just demand that you're an adult and you're happy that you're able to fulfill his sexual desires and you don't have an intention of stopping it. But as an adult, it's important for you that because it's something that's not in your normal wheelhouse, and it's clearly something that is taking up a large majority of your days and your time, usurping your family life more than the average couple's sex life does, that you just need to have one-on-one support with an external professional. And it's not really you asking him permission, but you're telling him.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, honestly, yes, I need to do it.
I hope this conversation encourages you to do that, although I can't sit here and pretend to know the ins and outs and the dynamics. And obviously, people are in stressful situations that go over my head. So I just am so grateful that you wrote in. And I hope that even just saying the words out loud and talking to a stranger about it. And I also hope maybe some of the comments that come in from other people can be illuminating to you, whether it's some people suggesting things that you could try, things that you might be able to do to improve the situation, or people reaching out just confirming that they have a similar kinky sex life with their partner as well.
Love it. I would love friends in this. So please, anyone reach out to Lucie so you can reach out to me.
Yeah, I mean, if people want to write to you, in the comments of the video. Obviously, you can read those there, but if anyone really wants to connect with Emily personally, you could reach out to me and I'll send it to her. And if she wants to connect with you, she will.
Wonderful. Yes.
Emily, thank you so much for your time and for your openness. And thank you for letting me share my thoughts despite not being a mental health professional.
No, I appreciate you so much, Lucie. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
Thank you so much for tuning in to the Real Stuff podcast. If you're liking the show, please head over to Apple or Spotify and leave us a written review. If you're watching on YouTube, drop a comment down below and join in the conversation. And if you're feeling called to be a guest on the show, visit luciefink.com/apply and tell us your story. Thank you so much, as always, for sharing your time and attention with us, and we will see you next time on the Real Stuff podcast.
Please note that this episode may contain paid endorsements and advertisements for products and services. Individuals on the show may have a direct or indirect financial interest in products or services referred to in this episode.